Imagine waking up 1 year from today. You look in the mirror and you're healthier, you're calmer, you get things done without forcing yourself. You have more confidence, your relationships are better, money isn't stressing you as much. And surprisingly, your life didn't change because of one big decision. It changed because of a few tiny things you started doing every single day. Most people think success comes from huge moments, a lucky opportunity, a perfect plan, or a sudden burst of motivation. But if you look closely at people who consistently improve their lives, you'll notice something different. Their lives aren't built on motivation, they're built on habits. And here's the interesting part. Habits don't just change what you do, they slowly change who you become. If you read 10 pages every day, you're no longer someone trying to read more, you're becoming a reader. If you exercise regularly, you're not someone forcing yourself to work out, you're becoming a healthy person. Your identity quietly follows your repeated actions. The problem is that most advice online focuses on dramatic habits. Wake up at 4 a.m., take freezing cold showers, work 18 hours a day, completely transform your life overnight. It sounds exciting, but it usually doesn't last. Real change is much less dramatic. It's built from small habits that seem almost too simple to matter, until months later when your entire life looks different. Today I want to share 15 habits that can genuinely change your life. Not because they're trendy, but because they quietly improve the way you think, make decisions, and spend your time. Some of these habits might surprise you. Some may even feel too small to make a difference. But don't underestimate small actions. A plane leaving an airport that's only 1 degree off course doesn't seem like a big deal. But after flying thousands of kilometers, it lands in a completely different city. Your habits work the same way. Tiny changes, completely different destination. So let's start with the first habit. Habit 1. Make your future self the tiebreaker. Whenever we make decisions, we usually ask one question. What do I feel like doing right now? And honestly, that's not a terrible question. The problem is, your present self and your future self often want different things. Your present self wants comfort. Your future self wants growth. Your present self wants one more episode. Your future self wants enough sleep. Your present self wants to spend money on things you don't need. Your future self wishes you'd saved a little. Here's something I started noticing. The people who make good decisions consistently aren't constantly using willpower. They simply ask a different question. What would my future self thank me for? It's such a small shift, but it changes everything. Imagine you're standing in front of the fridge late at night. Instead of asking, what do I want right now? Ask, what choice will tomorrow's version of me be happy about? The same works before scrolling social media for an hour, before skipping a workout, before buying something impulsively, before procrastinating. Your future self can't speak, but you can choose to represent them. Think of yourself as making tiny investments for someone you'll become. The amazing thing is, your future self eventually becomes your present self. And one day, you'll either thank the person you were or wish they had made slightly better decisions. You don't have to be perfect. Just let your future self win the tiebreaker. Whenever you're unsure between two choices, choose the one that creates a better tomorrow. Habit 2. Finish before you feel finished. Have you ever noticed something strange? Sometimes you stop working not because you're tired, but because you're bored or distracted, or your brain simply wants something easier. We often confuse discomfort with exhaustion, but they're not the same thing. Imagine you're reading a book. After 15 minutes, your brain suddenly says, let's check Instagram. Did your energy disappear? Probably not. Your attention did. Our brains love novelty. Every notification, every new video, every quick reward trains us to leave difficult things the moment they stop being exciting. Over time, this creates a dangerous habit. You become someone who quits whenever something feels slightly uncomfortable. Instead, try this. Whenever you're tempted to stop, stay for just 5 more minutes. Not another hour, just 5. Finish one more paragraph, solve one more problem, write one more sentence, read one more page. Those extra 5 minutes don't just improve your work, they teach your brain something much more valuable. I don't quit just because it's uncomfortable. That's a powerful identity to build. Ironically, after those 5 minutes, you'll often discover you weren't actually done. You just needed to get past the moment where your brain wanted an easier reward. The people who accomplish extraordinary things aren't always more talented. Many of them simply stay in the room a little longer than everyone else. Habit 3. Leave every place better than you found it. This habit has almost nothing to do with cleaning and everything to do with your mindset. Imagine you finish eating. Instead of leaving your plate on the table, you wash it immediately. You leave your desk slightly cleaner than before. You finish a meeting and send a helpful summary. You visit someone's home and help tidy up before leaving. None of these actions are impressive on their own, but together they create a powerful identity. You become someone who adds value wherever you go. The opposite habit is surprisingly common. People leave messes for their future selves. I'll deal with it later. Tomorrow arrives, the mess gets bigger, stress grows. Then we wonder why life feels overwhelming. Small, unfinished tasks quietly steal mental energy. Every pile of clothes, every unanswered email, every unorganized folder. They're tiny reminders saying, you still have work left. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine ending each day with fewer loose ends than when it started. You'd wake up feeling lighter. This habit also changes your relationships. People naturally appreciate those who leave situations better than they found them. Not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because they care. Whether it's your home, your workplace, your friendships, or even a conversation, ask yourself, can I leave this just a little better than I found it? Sometimes that improvement takes less than a minute, but over years, it completely changes your environment, and eventually, it changes you. Habit 4. Create tiny moments of boredom. This might sound strange, but boredom is becoming rare. The moment we stand in a line, phone. Waiting for food, phone. 5 free minutes, phone. Even walking somewhere, phone. We've become uncomfortable with silence. But here's what many people don't realize. Some of your best ideas don't appear while consuming information. They appear when your brain finally has space to think. Have you ever had a random solution while taking a shower, or walking, or just staring out of a window? That's not a coincidence. When your brain isn't constantly processing new information, it starts connecting old information in creative ways. That's where reflection happens. That's where creativity happens. That's where many important life decisions become clearer. Try this simple experiment. Tomorrow, spend 10 minutes without any entertainment. No music, no podcast, no videos, no scrolling. Just walk or sit. Let your mind wander. At first, it'll feel uncomfortable. Your brain will beg for stimulation. But after a while, something interesting happens. Your thoughts slow down. Ideas begin to surface. Questions you've been avoiding suddenly become easier to answer. You remember things you forgot. You notice patterns. You think more clearly. We're constantly feeding our brains, but we rarely give them time to digest. And just like your body needs breaks between meals, your mind needs breaks between information. Protect a few quiet minutes every day. You might be surprised by what your own mind has been trying to tell you. So far, none of these habits require special talent. They don't require money. They don't require waking up before sunrise. They're simple shifts in the way you think and act, and that's exactly why they're so powerful. Because habits that are easy to repeat are the ones that actually stick. But now we're going to move into habits that can completely change the way you learn, make decisions, and build confidence. And one of them might be the reason some people seem to improve every year, while others stay exactly where they are. Let's continue. By now, you've probably noticed something. None of these habits are about becoming a completely different person overnight. They're about making small decisions that slowly reshape the person you become. And here's something fascinating. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they repeat the same patterns without realizing it. The next 4 habits are all about breaking those patterns. Let's get into the 5th one. Habit 5. Learn something you can use today. We're living in a time where information has never been easier to access. You can watch lectures from top universities, read books from experts, learn almost any skill online. Yet somehow, many people consume more information than ever before while changing very little about their lives. Why? Because knowing isn't the same as using. Think about it. You probably know that drinking more water is healthy. You know exercise is important. You know saving money is a good idea. But knowledge alone doesn't change behavior. Action does. Here's a habit that makes learning actually useful. Whenever you read a book, watch a podcast, or learn something new, ask yourself one simple question. What's one thing I can apply before today ends? Just one thing, not 10, one. Maybe you learned a better way to organize your day. Try it immediately. Maybe you discovered a communication tip. Use it in your next conversation. Maybe you found a productivity trick. Test it this afternoon. The faster knowledge turns into action, the faster it becomes part of who you are. Think about learning like planting a seed. If you keep collecting seeds but never plant them, you shouldn't expect a garden. Ideas only grow when you put them into the real world. So from today, don't just finish books, finish experiments. Habit 6. Stop arguing with reality. This habit sounds simple, but it might save you years of unnecessary stress. Imagine it's raining outside. You planned to go for a walk. Now you have two choices. You can spend the next 20 minutes thinking, this shouldn't be happening. Or you can ask, given that it's raining, what's the best thing I can do now? The rain doesn't care how you feel about it. Reality doesn't negotiate. Yet we spend an incredible amount of energy arguing with things we can't change. Traffic, the past, other people's opinions, unexpected delays, mistakes we've already made. Notice how often we say things like, this isn't fair, this wasn't supposed to happen, they shouldn't have done that. Maybe that's true, but after the event has already happened, those thoughts don't solve the problem. They just keep us stuck inside it. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what happened. It means you stop wasting energy pretending it didn't. Think of it like GPS. If you miss a turn, the GPS doesn't spend 5 minutes complaining. It simply recalculates. That's what emotionally strong people do. They adapt faster. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? They ask, what do I do now? That one question shifts your attention from the past to your next move. And that's where your power has always been. Habit 7. Make your life slightly harder on purpose. At first, this sounds like terrible advice. Why would anyone choose discomfort? Because comfort is amazing until it becomes your default. Imagine two people. One always takes the elevator. The other sometimes chooses the stairs. One always parks as close as possible. The other doesn't mind walking an extra few minutes. One avoids every difficult conversation. The other has them respectfully, even when they're uncomfortable. None of these choices seem life-changing, but they send your brain a powerful message. I can handle difficult things. Here's the interesting part. Confidence doesn't come from telling yourself you're capable. It comes from repeatedly proving it to yourself. Every small challenge becomes evidence. I finished that workout. I made that phone call. I spoke up. I learned that new skill. Little by little, your brain stops seeing challenges as threats. They become normal. Modern life makes almost everything easier. Food arrives at your door. Entertainment is endless. Answers are one search away. Convenience is wonderful. But if every part of life becomes effortless, our ability to deal with difficulty starts getting weaker. So every now and then, choose the slightly harder option. Walk instead of driving. Cook instead of ordering. Read instead of scrolling. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Not because life should be difficult, but because becoming stronger requires meeting a little resistance. Just like muscles don't grow without resistance, character doesn't either. Habit 8. End every day with one honest question. Most people spend years repeating the same day. It only feels like experience because the calendar keeps changing. Real growth comes from reflection. Think about athletes. After every game, they review what happened. Businesses study what worked. Pilots review flights. Scientists analyze experiments. But when it comes to our own lives, we often move from one day to the next without thinking about what we learned. Here's a habit that takes less than 2 minutes. Before you go to bed, ask yourself one question. What's one thing today taught me? That's it. Maybe you realized you work better in the morning. Maybe you noticed that checking your phone first thing ruins your focus. Maybe you learned that one conversation you've been avoiding wasn't nearly as scary as you imagined. Or maybe you made a mistake. That's valuable too, because mistakes become expensive only when they aren't studied. Imagine making just one small improvement every single day. Not a huge transformation, just one tiny lesson. By the end of the year, you wouldn't just have lived through 365 days, you'd have collected 365 lessons. And those lessons quietly become wisdom. Many people wish they could go back in time and give advice to their younger selves. But your future self is hoping you'll listen to today's lesson. Don't let each day disappear without asking what it came to teach you. So far, these habits have focused on how you make decisions, respond to challenges, and grow a little every day. But the next few habits go even deeper. They're about protecting your attention, surrounding yourself with the right influences, overcoming fear, and building a mindset that keeps improving even when life gets messy. And once you understand them, you'll start noticing opportunities that most people walk right past. We've talked about making better decisions, handling discomfort, and learning from each day. Now let's talk about something even more valuable: your attention. Because whether you realize it or not, your life is shaped by whatever consistently captures your attention. Where your attention goes, your time follows. Where your time goes, your habits form. And where your habits form, your future is built. The next 4 habits are about protecting that future. Habit 9. Protect the first hour of your day. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet even touch the floor, you reach for your phone. A few notifications, a couple of messages, one news headline, a funny reel, a work email. Suddenly, 10 minutes become 30, and before you've even started your day, your mind is already reacting to everyone else's priorities. Have you noticed how easy it is to lose control of your morning? The first hour after you wake up is like setting the direction of a ship. A small change at the beginning can completely change where you end up by evening. Now, this doesn't mean you need a complicated morning routine. You don't need to meditate for an hour or run for 5 kilometers. Keep it simple. Even 10 minutes of meditation and a 10 to 15-minute walk or run can make a real difference. Give yourself 1 hour before the world starts pulling on your attention. Read a few pages, stretch your body, write down your 3 most important tasks. Sit quietly with your coffee, take a short walk. Even spending just 10 or 15 intentional minutes can change the mood of your entire day. Here's why it matters. Your brain is especially alert when you first wake up. Whatever you feed it first often stays with you. If the first thing you consume is stress, your mind spends the rest of the morning reacting. But if the first thing you consume is clarity, you'll carry that clarity into the rest of your day. Don't let your phone decide how your day begins. Start the day with your own priorities before you borrow someone else's. Habit 10. Build a learning circle. There's a saying that you've probably heard before. You're the average of the people you spend the most time with. Whether that's exactly true or not, the people around you influence you more than you think. But here's the good news. Your circle isn't limited to the people you meet in real life. Books can become mentors. Podcasts can become teachers. Documentaries can expand your perspective. Biographies can introduce you to people who solved problems you've never faced before. Imagine having a conversation with someone who spent 30 years mastering a skill. A book lets you do exactly that. One afternoon of reading can save you months of trial and error. Now here's the habit. Create a small learning circle. Choose a few voices that consistently make you think better. Not louder, better. People who challenge your assumptions, who explain ideas clearly, who encourage action instead of endless motivation. And here's something equally important. Be careful what repeatedly enters your mind. Just as healthy food helps your body, healthy ideas shape your thinking. If you constantly consume negativity, your brain starts expecting the worst. If you constantly consume thoughtful ideas, you begin asking better questions. And better questions usually lead to better decisions. So choose your influences the same way you'd choose your friends, because eventually, the voices you listen to become the voice inside your own head. Habit 11. Get comfortable being a beginner. Think back to when you were a child. You didn't worry about looking silly while learning to walk. You fell, got back up, fell again. And somehow, you never thought, maybe walking just isn't for me. But somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that struggling means we're not good enough. So we avoid trying new things, not because we can't learn, but because we don't like looking inexperienced. Here's the truth. Every expert you've ever admired was once completely clueless. The best speakers once stumbled over their words. The best artists drew terrible sketches. The best entrepreneurs made bad decisions. The best athletes lost games. The difference wasn't talent, it was that they stayed beginners long enough to become good. Imagine deciding to learn a new language. The first conversation will probably feel awkward. That's normal. Or maybe you want to start exercising. The first week might be difficult. That's normal too. Progress often feels uncomfortable because you're literally becoming someone you've never been before. Instead of saying, "I'm bad at this," try saying, "I'm still learning." Those two sentences create completely different futures. One closes the door, the other keeps it open. So don't measure yourself against people who've been practicing for years. Compare yourself to the version of you that almost didn't start. Every skill you admire was once someone's first attempt. Yours will be too. Habit 12. Replace "I have to" with "I get to." This habit won't change what you do. It changes how you experience what you do. Let's say your alarm goes off early. You could think, "I have to go to work," or "I get to earn a living." You could think, "I have to exercise," or "I get to move a healthy body." You could think, "I have to study," or "I get to learn something that opens new opportunities." Now, let's be honest. Not every responsibility is exciting. Some tasks are genuinely difficult. Some days are exhausting. This habit isn't about pretending everything is wonderful. It's about noticing the opportunity hidden inside the obligation. Perspective doesn't change reality, but it changes your relationship with reality. Imagine two people doing the exact same job. One focuses only on what they're giving up. The other focuses on what they're building. Years later, who do you think is more likely to stay motivated? Gratitude isn't ignoring problems. It's refusing to let problems become the only thing you notice. A simple shift in language can create a simple shift in thinking, and over time, a simple shift in thinking creates a very different life. The next time you catch yourself saying, "I have to," pause for a second. Ask yourself, is there another way to see this? You may discover that what feels like a burden today is something your past self once wished for. We've covered 12 habits so far. None of them require expensive courses. None require perfect discipline. And none expect you to transform overnight. Instead, they help you make small choices that quietly shape the person you're becoming. In the final part, we'll look at the last 3 habits, perhaps the most impactful of all. They're about consistency, protecting your peace, and understanding the one truth that ties every habit in this video together. And by the end, you'll realize that changing your life isn't about finding the perfect habit. It's about becoming the kind of person who keeps showing up, one day at a time. We've made it to the final 3 habits. And if you've been watching from the beginning, you've probably noticed a pattern. None of these habits promise instant success. None of them claim you'll become a completely different person in a week, because that's not how real change works. Real change is usually invisible at first. It's like planting a tree. For a long time, all you see is a small seedling. It doesn't look impressive. Some days, it even feels like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, the roots are growing. And one day, the results become impossible to ignore. These last 3 habits are about strengthening those roots. Habit 13. Keep small promises to yourself. Imagine you tell a friend, "I'll be there at 6. Then you don't show up. You do it again the next day, and the day after that. Eventually, that friend would stop trusting your words. Now here's a question. How many promises have you made to yourself and quietly broken? I'll start tomorrow. I'll exercise this week. I'll read every night. I'll stop procrastinating. Most of us have said these things. The problem isn't that we fail once in a while. The problem is that repeated broken promises slowly damage something incredibly important: self-trust. Confidence isn't built by saying positive affirmations in the mirror. It's built when your actions consistently match your words. If you tell yourself you'll wake up early and you do it, your brain notices. If you promise yourself 10 minutes of reading and you actually read, your brain notices that too. Little by little, you become someone who believes their own commitments. So here's a better approach. Stop making huge promises. Make smaller ones. Instead of promising to work out for an hour every day, promise yourself 10 minutes. Instead of reading 50 pages, read 5. Instead of saying you'll completely change your life this month, choose one tiny habit you'll actually keep. Because every promise you keep is like putting another brick into the foundation of your confidence. And one day, you'll realize something powerful. You trust yourself, not because life became easier, but because you've proven over and over again that your word means something, even when you're the one listening. Habit 14. Protect your peace like it's valuable. Have you ever noticed how one negative comment can stay in your mind all day, while 10 compliments disappear in minutes? That's how our brains are wired. Thousands of years ago, paying attention to danger helped humans survive. Today, that same tendency often keeps us focused on unnecessary stress. One rude comment online, a pointless argument, bad news that doesn't affect your life, constant comparison on social media. Little by little, these things steal your peace. Here's something worth remembering. Not everything deserves your attention. Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's important. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every unnecessary worry is another rock. At first, one rock doesn't seem like much, then another, and another. Eventually, you're exhausted. Not because the journey was impossible, but because you're carrying things you never needed to pick up. Protecting your peace doesn't mean avoiding reality. It means choosing your battles wisely. Ask yourself, will this matter a week from now? What can I actually control here? Is this helping me grow or just keeping me upset? Sometimes the strongest response isn't proving you're right. It's deciding your peace is worth more than winning the argument. Your attention is limited. Spend it on things that improve your life, not just interrupt it. Because every yes to unnecessary drama is a no to something that actually matters. Habit 15. Become 1% better, not perfect. Let's end with the habit that quietly connects every other habit in this video. Most people never change because they aim for perfection. They create huge plans. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'll work out every single day. I'll never waste time again. For a few days, everything goes well. Then life happens. They miss one day. And suddenly they think, I've already failed. So they quit. But imagine if an airplane pilot gave up after a little turbulence. That wouldn't make any sense. The goal was never a perfectly smooth flight. The goal was to keep adjusting until reaching the destination. Life works the same way. You don't need perfect days. You need enough good days. Think about someone improving by just 1% each day. One extra page read, one healthier meal, one difficult conversation handled better, one less hour wasted. Individually, those improvements seem tiny, but over months and years, they create a completely different person. Here's the secret. Success rarely comes from one life-changing decision. It comes from hundreds of ordinary decisions made consistently. That's why you shouldn't ask, how can I change my life today? Instead ask, what's one small thing I can do today that my future self will be grateful for? Then repeat it tomorrow, and the day after that, 1% better, again and again. Because small improvements don't stay small forever. Let's take a moment to look back at what we've covered. We talked about making decisions your future self will thank you for, finishing tasks even when the excitement disappears, leaving every place a little better than you found it, creating quiet moments where your mind can actually think, turning knowledge into action instead of just collecting information, accepting reality instead of arguing with it, choosing small challenges that make you stronger, learning something from every single day, protecting the first hour of your morning, surrounding yourself with ideas that help you grow, being willing to be a beginner, changing your perspective from I have to I get to, keeping promises to yourself, protecting your peace, and finally, focusing on getting just 1% better instead of chasing perfection. If that list feels overwhelming, don't worry. You're not supposed to start all 15 tomorrow. In fact, I'd recommend the opposite. Choose just one. The habit that made you stop and think, I really need this. Then practice it until it feels natural. Because changing your life isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right thing consistently. Years from now, people might look at your life and think, they're lucky, they're naturally disciplined, they've always been like that. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It wasn't one magical morning. It wasn't a burst of motivation. It was a series of tiny choices that nobody noticed. Choices that seemed too small to matter until they mattered more than anything. So before you leave this video, I want you to answer one question. Which habit are you going to start today? Not next Monday, not next month, today. Write it down in the comments. Making a small public commitment often makes it much easier to follow through, and you might even inspire someone else who's reading the comments. And remember, your future isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the quiet decisions you make when nobody is watching. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could use this reminder today. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself and keep becoming just a little better every single day.